that was everything on the support line. So have we got Heather on the line? I can see there is a Heather. Oh, hi Heather, I can see you there waving. So we have Heather Carter here, who I've said earlier, who is, I believe, the founder of Ready for Change Now. And yeah, just wait and see if she was nodding, and she has, which is good. So yes, Heather's going to take us through emotional freedom technique, which I know quite a few people have been very keen on, and I'm really interested in this as well personally. Yeah, without further ado, I'll hand over to Heather, and she can show us this introduction.
Okay. Cheers, Luke. Thanks very much. I'm happy for you to unmute everybody and people to sort of ask questions as they like, and also just that energy of everybody together is quite good. We'll just change the mute if if we get interference or anything. So you've asked about EFT, which absolutely delights me. I first got involved with it about 15 years ago, after years and years of searching for something. As somebody with depression and all sorts of emotional issues, it was a revelation for me. For those of you who don't know what emotional freedom technique is, it's often better known as tapping. The version that I'm going to show you today isn't the one that I would have been showing you in Durham if we'd have been there in real life, because it involves tapping on the face, and with the current advice about the virus, we're discouraged from touching our faces any more than we need to. I will sort of show you very briefly. I have washed my hands very carefully before I've started, but I don't want you to join in with the face tapping part. Not that I'm for a moment suggesting any of you haven't washed your hands, but just to be on the safe side. But EFT is an energy therapy and energy psychology. It works with the meridians of the body, and its real purpose and beauty is self-soothing, helping to reduce stress in the moment, bringing down anxiety, dealing with the emotions around whatever is going on in your life. So I am certainly no expert on TS. I'd never heard of it before Charlotte and Luke contacted me, but that actually doesn't matter, because whatever's going on in your life, there are underlying similarities that we all deal with. Mega mentioned overwhelm. I think that's a big one for a lot of people. Maybe feelings of helplessness that come from a whole variety of sources. And what happens when we're in a situation that we're finding difficult to cope with is the back brain kicks in, the lizard brain, if you like. It's the amygdala, which is the fight, fright, freeze, or flop response to danger or emergencies. And danger to our bodies can mean all sorts of things in this world. You know, nowadays it's not that a lion's going to chase you and eat you. It's simply coping with life. And the body stores trauma. And so by tapping on these points on the body, which I'm going to show you, which won't include the face, it's getting into that whole body's energy system and saying, it's okay, it's safe. In this moment, I'm okay. And it can just make a difference. And it's something that I'll encourage you when I've shown it to you. It doesn't suit everybody, but if you do feel some benefit from it, do it regularly. Do it as often as you can. Do it when you're not feeling stressed, because it's training your body just to go, oh. And that then allows the front brain to kick in. It enables you to think more clearly and just generally feel calmer and more able to cope. So there have been many versions of EFT. It started with somebody called Richard Callahan, who came up with something called TFT, thought field therapy. And that involved very specific tapping points for specific things. So it was quite complicated, and it wasn't something that people could just use for themselves. Gary Craig came along. He was a student of Richard Callahan, and he thought, well, yeah, this is all very good and it works, but I want to make it easier for people. So he developed effectively a sledgehammer, one algorithm, which could, one algorithm which would be used for everything, because it covered all of the ends of the meridians. So it covered the whole body. It didn't matter which part of you was affected. By one simple tapping technique, you would cover everything. It looks very weird, you know, if you're not necessarily something you would want to do if you're I don't know, sitting with a specialist and being given bad news. You know, you might not want to sit there doing this to help you cope. It might feel odd, but there are ways that I'll show you that you can do it more subtly. But I think Paul McKenna, whatever you think of him, helped the cause of EFT because he brought it into the mainstream a bit more. You know, and EFT now is perhaps where something like acupuncture was a few years ago. It's much more accepted and is growing. And actually, the points are very similar to the points. If you like, it's acupuncture without needles, where we're tapping on these points, but it's also very forgiving. So you don't have to get it right. It's about the intention. If you're meaning to tap a particular point, it's good enough that you have that intention of doing so. It's just the way that energy works, and it may sound a bit woo-woo, but there is now science there. And I'm no scientist, but if you're interested in the science, I can give you some links to look up all about energy, quantum energy, quantum physics, and so on, and the connection that we all have out there in the field. So the more we do this, we can do this to help other people, help ourselves, even help the world. So I think I've talked enough. Let's just do a little thing, a little taster, if you like. I'm assuming that everybody on the call has something in their life that feels a bit uncomfortable, whether it's fear or frustration about lockdown, overwhelm, whatever it is. Just connect very lightly to it. So no heavy thinking, just allow the thought, yeah, actually I feel really anxious about such and such. Just let that come into your head. Take a breath. And now we're going to start. I'd like you to join in with me. I hope you can see quite clearly. So the karate chop point on the side of either hand, it doesn't matter which one you use, and just tapping sort of 10 to 15 times. The number of times you do it doesn't matter, but just kind of follow me. And then we move to the little finger. Okay, so moving across to the little finger, tapping on the end of that. And then the next to the ring finger, just tapping on that. Middle finger, tapping a few times on that. Do what feels comfortable to you. It doesn't have to be very, very hard. Index finger, and then the side of the thumb. And then we move to the chest points, the collarbone, but also we call it gorilla tapping. So this isn't conventional EFT, but this is being developed particularly for trauma so that we don't need words, we can just do the tapping. So we do a bit of gorilla tapping across the collarbone and then under the arm. So about bra strap point for the ladies, as if you're giving yourself a bit of a hug, just tapping, and you can use the flat of your hand on there. Okay, and then moving to the other side, the other hand, so change hands and we're doing the same thing again. Tapping on the karate point.
It feels really nice. I'm quite surprised by how nice it feels. Just
it is lovely, isn't it? It's very, very relaxing. Right, inside of the little finger, ring finger.
I bet a lot of people do it without even knowing what, like, just naturally.
Yeah,
Well.
these are points that people do naturally tap. So middle finger, index finger, thumb, gorilla point, and if you really feel like it, you can make a gorilla noise, or you know, if you're actually feeling a bit angry, this can be a really good one. You can get quite on that one, on there. And then under the other side, under the arm. And we're just going to finish off with the tapping with the top of the head. Just, you can use both hands for that if you want. Just circular motion, tap the top of the head.
Oh, I like that.
It's good, isn't it?
I didn't realise it.
And now just some breathing. So a good deep, slow breath in through the nose. And blow it out through the mouth. And we're doing this 3 times. So second breath in. And out.
Alice Flores, yeah.
And in. And out. So that was the first complete round. We're going to do one more round of that again, and then we're going to check back in. So starting again with the whichever hand you like for the first one. So karate chop point. It's very, very simple, this. So this is the joy of it. You can do it any time, just for yourself. Little finger, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, thumb, chest,
Getting it.
under the arm.
I my head all the time, and it does calm me down.
Yeah, as you say, you can do just one point. It's fine. This is a whole process, and it's really good if you are in a particular, just either a memory or that where you really need to just sit quietly and calm down. So other arm now, other hand, karate chop point, little finger, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, thumb, under the arm. Oh, I forgot the gorilla point, didn't I? So it doesn't matter which way round you go.
Yeah.
It's all very forgiving. We'll do another one under the arm just to make up for it. And because it's second round of that, top of the head. And another set of breathing. So nice, slow, deep breath in. Blow it out. In. And out. In. And out. And now, just with your eyes closed, just again connect with whatever that thought or concern was that you started off with. And just see what that's like for you now. Has anybody noticed any difference?
Feel very chilled.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel more rational about it now. I feel like I can really think about it more.
Yeah, and that's exactly, what I was saying about the back brain, the brain that does these automatic reactions to its only purpose is to keep you safe, and it isn't it isn't very bright in terms of our modern way of thinking about things. Once that's soothed and calmed, then it allows the front thinking intellectual brain to switch in, and you're able to just simply work your way through what you need to do. So that's a very, this is being developed by the Peaceful Heart Foundation. It uses EFT, but in a different way, and it's called the Tearless Trauma Technique, because it's used in countries where language is an issue, where people are going in and trying to help people who've been so badly traumatized by genocide and one thing and another. So it's taught, that's why it's used without words. Traditionally, EFT, the EFT I started with, is very much that you use words to tune into an issue, and then the tapping, and you're repeating some words at the same time. The tapping does the work, but the words tune you in. But this enables you just within the moment to deal with just the energy that's going on in your body, if it's very, very hard to deal with, if you're very uncomfortable or wired in some way. But as somebody said, you can just tap anywhere, and people have their favorite point. Mine is this one on the collarbone, sort of part of the gorilla tapping. So sometimes if I'm making a difficult phone call, and obviously if it's a video call they would know, but on a phone call nobody knows that I'm tapping and calming myself at the same time as I'm talking to them. So it works amazingly well for that. If you are in, for example, a meeting, especially if there's a table in front of you, you can have your hands under the table and you can simply work through the finger points. Don't worry if you can't hit the sides, it's fine, because the vibration anyway will go through. And again, as I said before, it's about intention. So just using the hand points you can do quite subtly. And I tend to do this when I'm out for a walk, and particularly at this time when we are allowed to go out for a walk. I find when I walk, that's when the first 5-10 minutes of my walk is when my mind's going yip, 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 yip. And I tap as I'm walking. Nobody can see, nobody has a clue what I'm doing. And breathe, and before I know it, I'm not even thinking about that thing. I'm actually just enjoying the walk. I'm in nature. I'm just not obsessing on whatever was on my mind. So it is really, really useful for that. Are there any questions so far for anyone? Any comments? Any?
Not a question, but
Yeah.
I have something called FND, which is functional neurological disorder, which is basically I have an amount of post-traumatic stress disorder, which is actually my brain is kind of deciding to, it causes, like, I have no anatomical issue with my legs, but because my brain has got because of the trauma, shall we say, it causes me to have weakness in my legs. It's the same kind of thing that, you know, when people get foreign accent syndrome is a type of functional neurological issue. And I'm thinking that this possibly might be able to, when I'm having a particularly bad episode of FND, I might be able to use it to kind of draw me away from what my body's doing and kind of looking at something else at the same time.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth a try. I mean, Gary Craig, who came out with EFT, said try it on everything. So you could actually also use it to help you if there is any fear that this is going to happen. And I think that can be a big thing. It's a bit like people who get panic attacks. The fear of the panic attack can almost bring on a panic attack. So you can even use it for that. And in that case, I would say, because it's kind of not something you need an instant soothing for, that would be in a case, oh look, tell me off when you do see me do this, because I've been doing it so many years. I start tapping on my face, and I don't want you all to do that. Yeah, so that's when I would actually take some time, and this gives me an opportunity to demonstrate the tapping using words, if that's okay with you, Katie. So that, for an example, I'd be tapping on, this is called the setup statement. So tapping on the cross chop point, and Katie, if you would kind of repeat the words that I give you, we can just have it. As you're thinking about the possibility that might happen to you, what's happening to you? What's happening in your mind and your body?
I get very anxious. I get very anxious of knowing that if my leg goes, I could fall over, or if I become dizzy, because I get really bad dizzy spells from it. So I get worried I'm going to fall over, or I get worried that I'm not going to be able to speak.
Right.
I get basically some of the things that happen are like non-epileptic seizures as well. So, but they are all based in post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
So my body just misbehaves with no analytical reason for doing so.
Perfect. So tapping on your cross chop point, and it doesn't matter which hand you use, even though my body misbehaves.
Even though my body misbehaves.
And that makes me very anxious.
That makes me very anxious.
Deep down, I'm okay.
Deep down, I'm okay.
Does that feel okay for you to say? Do you believe that deep down you're okay? Yeah. Okay. So remember, you would be doing this when you've got more time, when you're not in the moment of something happening. Okay. So we do that 3 times. So even though my body misbehaves.
Even though my body misbehaves.
It's A. Oh, you can.
And it makes me really anxious.
And it makes me really anxious.
Does it make you embarrassed as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I truly believe people must think I'm drunk when I'm out in public.
Yeah. And I'm so afraid people are going to think I'm drunk.
I'm so afraid people are going to think I'm drunk.
And think badly of me.
And think badly of me.
But deep down, I'm okay.
Deep down, I'm okay.
Okay. So even though my body misbehaves in this way.
But even though my body misbehaves in this way.
And it's so embarrassing.
And it's so embarrassing.
And I'm afraid of what people will think.
And I'm afraid what people might think.
Deep down, I'm okay.
Deep down, I'm okay.
Okay. Now we can't do what I would be doing now. I'll show you. I don't want you to do it. My body misbehaves. So we'd cut all of that down to a short statement, like my body misbehaves, or whatever felt strongest to you, and tap around these points. But we won't. We'll do the fingers instead. So all you're going to say is tapping of fingers, and everybody, please tap along if you can. You don't repeat the words, but joining in the tapping. And if any of you have a similar issue or anything on your mind, just tune into that briefly and then forget about it, but carry on tapping. My body misbehaves.
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 My body misbehaves. Chest point. My body misbehaves.
My body misbehaves.
Top of the head. My body misbehaves.
My body misbehaves.
And back to the chest. My body misbehaves.
My body misbehaves. Sorry, I feel like I've like what's it called? Hijacked the whole thing.
No, oh,
Right.
okay.
I thought I was learning as well as you're doing it, so it's fine.
Yeah,
exactly,
honestly,
exactly.
thank you everybody, because it's the best way to show how to use EFT is to show on somebody else. So I apologize, Katie, if that's made you feel uncomfortable.
No. I just didn't want to hijack your entire talk. I'm so sorry.
No, it really is. I'm very, very grateful
Mm.
to you for
Yeah.
being willing to do this, because it just, so that what I want people to see is that all you do is almost talk to yourself, tapping on the side of your hand, just talk about what you're feeling out loud. And the reason that you talk out loud is because your brain, your mind hears it differently when you've said it. Even better if you're working with a practitioner, then you're hearing it from somebody else as well, and it gives your whole system an opportunity to think, well, okay, you know, what's going on here, what's really happening, and how serious it is. So it gives it all time to sort of shake down and process through, because very often we push things down. We think, oh, I mustn't think about this, and we live in a society at the moment of the somewhat toxic positivity. You know, we're all made to feel guilty because, well, you're only in the situation you're in because you don't think positively enough. What I love about EFT is it says, I am feeling this, and that's okay. You know, I'm a human being, I'm entitled to feel this. It's an emotion. An emotion has information for me, and I can let it out and I can accept it. So this setup statement where we do the Karate Chop point, even though my body lets me down or my body misbehaves, I'm okay, is kind of putting it into context. It means it's that emotion is there and it's acceptable and it's yours, you own it, but it isn't everything that you are. So
it's sort of given permission to feel your feelings, basically.
Absolutely, and feel your feelings without judgment. There are no bad or good emotions. They are all part of humanity. They are just what you are feeling. And simply by accepting them, they can move, they can shift. So yeah, that's it's a powerful thing, because the emotions that we shove down and try to ignore stay with us, and what happens is the subconscious mind thinks, oh, that's not very nice, that was an awkward situation, I need to protect myself from that. And so you develop almost a trauma capsule. Everything that matches the fear or the anxiety that you have gets shoved in there, so that you get more and more easily triggered by particular situations. And what EFT does is enable, I nearly did the face again then, enables you to just, oh no, it's okay, that was then, but in this moment I can soothe my system. I can let that emotion just simply go through my system. It's there, it's valid, you know, and emotions that aren't acknowledged really do stay because they want to be heard. So you're muted, were you saying something?
Yeah, well, I'm training to become a counsellor. I'm in my last year of my training, and a lot of having TS is about accepting my emotions and the anxiety I felt, and the more I was resisting them, the more anxious I felt. So by accepting them, I'm less anxious.
Yep.
And that's over all areas of my life.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you for that. It's best demonstration I do of it is what we resist persists, because when you're resisting something, it's like that, you're really holding on to it. And when you accept it, it can fall away, it can get into context. So can I just check in with you, Katie, after that simple round of tapping how's that for you now?
I think it has definitely made me a lot calmer. I mean, it makes me, I think when I'm about to have a bout of my body doing whatever the hell it wants, it becomes very, the more you think about it, it's like if I think about walking, I can't walk. So I think it makes you not think, like, I'm less in my own head because, you know, once you've been tapping, your fingers feel a bit zingy, your chest, you know, you kind of feel like less inside my own head, more
Yeah.
about, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at describing it.
You're doing fine.
Yeah,
brilliant, yeah.
I felt very much less inside my head, and, you know, kind of I've definitely felt calmer.
Yeah, thank you for that, because I think that's a really key point about working with EFT. It is a somatic technique. It is getting you into your body. This is a problem for most of us, you know, because we I can't remember which philosopher said that, you know, I've experienced a lot of traumas in my life, and some of them actually happened. You know,
I like that.
This power of imagination that we have, it's an amazing gift, but it's also something we can often use to torture ourselves with. So with EFT, and certainly some of the more sort of advanced techniques that we're not going to have a chance to talk about today, you can bring that power of imagination to bear to transform your response to situation, because this is about our response. You can't change what is, you can't change what's happening around you. What you do have the power to change is your response to it, and the tapping just helps the flow of that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So are there any other questions that, or ways that people maybe think they can apply it to them, or would like some more advice on how to apply it?
Is there any way that you can like use it too much, do you think? Like if you apply it too much during the day, is it something you should use sparingly, or is it fine to just to go with whatever you want?
Well, I would say it's fine to do as much as you like, wouldn't I? It can. I would say, don't do it while you're driving.
I don't drive, so it's okay.
Okay, or cycling. It is. You can get quite spacey with it, because it's quite hypnotic. If you think, and I'm going to my face again, especially if you're doing the tapping on your face, because of the rhythm of it and so on, it can be quite hypnotic. If you've done a massive piece of work on yourself, you know, and you've gone really deep and you've felt something shift dramatically, you can feel very tired, teary, so that you can have, I wouldn't call them abreactions, because they're clearing, and the body clears things in different ways. So I've had sessions with clients where we end up laughing our heads off, and that's a release, that's a clearing. It's very common for clients to sit there, oh, sorry. Again, that's because you're letting go of these things that have been so tight inside you, and it's releasing. So I will always recommend that people, when they've had an EFT session, i.e. done quite, you know, a lot of work, is to drink water, which we should all be doing anyway. But again, because the body's an electrical system and we're using up quite a bit of electricity with our tapping, it's sensible to drink, and that also helps to clear out any toxins that you've released, because there's so much going on in our bodies that our thoughts are releasing chemicals in good and bad, well, however you describe them. Again, you can't label them good or bad, they all have a purpose. But tapping, I think, does tend to release the sort of oxytocin, serotonin type things, which is why you can feel so much more relaxed and calm and happy. And while it's the same system, as I understand it, it's the same system that produces the adrenaline and the other nasty one, cortisol. It can't produce the two types at the same time. So, but you know, you could have some of that floating about your system. So water's a good thing to do. But in general, just this, especially the simple finger tapping or tapping whatever point makes you feel best. I don't think you can do too much of it. And, you know, I find myself, I can be watching TV or, you know, just chilling, and I'll suddenly notice that I'm tapping. So you don't always have to have a reason. If you make tapping a habit, you will get benefit over time. What you will notice is that you are less easily triggered. So tapping can be like a panacea, something that you just do to keep your body calm, and it will become calmer over time, or it can be targeted, you know, and using words, really allowing your thoughts to take hold, but one thought at a time. Don't jump from one thing to another. But yeah, and again, I think you learn it, what it does do is put you more in touch with your body, again, out of here, because we live so much in our heads, and the tapping does help us into our bodies more. And then you will start to listen more to your body. You will listen more to what your body needs without judging it, and actually start to respond to your body's needs. That was a long answer. Did that help?
It was helpful though, thank you.
Something else that, just while I think about it, because I have a flitty memory, it's gone. What was I going to? Oh yes, if you do tapping, as we did that demonstration that I did with Katie, and you're talking about a feeling, an anxiety, what have you. A really good thing to do to help you get further out of your head is to stop and just do a body scan. And that, where am I know I feel anxious. Where do I feel this? So I tend to get there. That's one of my places, but some people it's in the throat, and it'll be a different place with each issue as well. And then you can focus your tapping on that area of the body rather than the issue, and that can be very, very useful, because it keeps you, the tapping keeps your brain occupied. Acknowledging what's going on in your body allows what's really happening to come up for your attention. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
So I don't know if does anybody else have anything that they'd like to sort of work on, just as another little demo, or obviously nothing too deep or heavy.
Maybe there's something, Heather, you could do for in terms of like the time that we all find ourselves in now with sort of isolation, and for many people on this call as well, even shielding as well. If there's anything you can recommend around that would be helpful.
Well, what we can do is do a group tap. Now, so if don't mute everybody, but is there one person who will kind of echo me? We'll do a group tap for this current situation. So can I have a volunteer that will just echo the words?
I'll volunteer.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Corinne. And everybody else, just say the words in your head, but chip in. If there's something you want to add as we go along, then please chip in. So I think we're all very, if you just tune into the situation, so I'm not going to do the usual, even though we've got this corona situation. I think you're all in there, you're all tuned in well enough. So I'm just going to kind of riff on it. And Corinne can echo, and then anybody else chip in. And I'm dying to use my face. Terrible. I use the fingers.
What?
I use the karate chop point. So this corona situation.
It's corona situation.
Stuck here in lockdown.
Stuck here in lockdown.
I feel so isolated.
I feel so isolated.
And a bit afraid.
I'm a bit afraid.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know what's going to happen.
And what if I'm ill?
And what if I'm ill?
Who's going to help me?
Who's going to help me?
And is that going to make the situation worse?
And is that going to make the situation worse?
Okay, collarbone point. This virus.
This virus.
Under the arms, and you can do it like a big hug. You can do both. You can do one or the other or both. It's up to you. It's scary.
It's scary.
Top of the head. We don't know when it's going to be over.
We don't know when it's going to be over.
Collarbone. And what about shielding?
What about shielding?
What does that really mean?
What does that really mean?
On the thumb. What does that mean for me?
What does that mean for me?
I'm overwhelmed by all of this.
I'm overwhelmed by all of this.
And I feel so helpless.
And I feel so helpless.
It's not fair.
It's not fair.
It's not fair that I have TS.
It's not fair that I have TS.
Side of the hand. And now this virus is around.
And now this virus is around.
Top of the head. And I feel so threatened.
And I feel so threatened.
Anybody want to add anything?
That felt very strong. It's not fair that I have. That felt very.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Say that again.
It's not fair that I have TS. That felt really touched a point.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's just deal with that one then and go to the Christchurch point. So, Jane, would you like to take over the echoing?
Well, I'm not the one who has TS, but perhaps Anna would.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
You
Anna.
okay with that?
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
It's just not fair.
It's just not fair.
It's not right that I have TS.
Not right that I have TS.
And all this extra stuff is going on.
With all this extra stuff going on.
It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Is there anything else that it is for you, Anna?
Stressful.
It's so stressful.
It's so stressful. My anxiety.
Now, is it enough? Yeah, it's getting worse. It's getting. Is it as you're tapping? Is it getting worse?
He's bringing everything to the surface. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So just tap. Just sit with that. I don't want to go in too deeply into it. What we do if you get into overwhelm, if you're working with somebody, just carry on tapping. You don't. I think. Would you be better not doing the echoing, Anna?
No, I'm okay. I do it with my mum sometimes. So.
Okay. Okay. So just carry on tapping. If it gets too much, then I'll just carry on. Would it be right? Are you able to say it, but deep down I'm okay, or is that not strong enough?
Yeah,
Does
no,
that not?
Fine.
Yeah. Okay. So deep down I'm okay.
Deep down I'm okay.
So even though I have all this deep anxiety,
even though I have all this deep anxiety,
it's not fair that I have TS.
It's not fair that I have TS.
And now there's all this going on.
Sorry, I've got to stop.
Okay, okay, just carry on. If you can, carry on tapping. And please allow any tears to come. Don't try and stop them. Karine, would you like to take over again?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. It just isn't fair.
Just isn't fair.
This whole situation just isn't fair.
This whole situation just isn't fair.
I'm doing my face again. It's worse for me than for others.
It's worse for me than it is for others.
Because I have TS.
Because I have TS.
Under the arms. It's just not fair.
It's just not fair.
But deep down, I'm okay.
But deep down, I'm okay.
In this moment, I'm okay.
In this moment, I'm okay.
Under the arms. But I acknowledge my fears.
But I acknowledge my fears.
Collarbone. I accept my fears.
I accept my fears.
Top of the head. It's perfectly natural.
It's perfectly natural.
It doesn't feel fair.
It doesn't feel fair.
None of this feels fair.
None of this feels fair.
It's not fair.
It's not fair.
Has anybody got anger coming up? Good. Okay. It's just not fair.
It's just not fair.
This virus,
On
top of everything else, collarbone is just not fair.
It's just not fair.
Top of the head, it doesn't feel fair.
It doesn't feel fair.
Okay, take a deep breath and let it go. One more deep breath. And let that go. Are you okay, Anna?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. So just, I would say to you, just keep tapping after the call, even tap a bit, like we did at the beginning without words, just very, very lightly attach to the thought. Don't go in too deep. It's layer by layer. It's like an onion skin. So just take it very, very, very gently.
Okay.
So how's everyone doing?
Okay.
Yeah, good.
So what is it? Anybody noticed a difference or something else has come up more strongly?
I
More
feel quite
relaxed.
calm. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a release. Like I was like, yeah, I'm thinking clearer, I think.
Okay, that's excellent, excellent. So there's two ways that we've covered today then that you can work on this. One is if something has come up or you feel overwhelmed or particularly stressed, do what we did at the beginning with just the doing the fingers, the chest, under the arm, both sides, breathing 3 times, then going round again. Finishing off with the top of the head, 3 breaths, and closing your eyes and just tuning in again. So very, very gentle process without words. If you want to go more deeply into something, then using words, using a setup, but having that balancing statement of deep down, I'm okay, or whatever feels good to you. It could be something as simple as, but I like this chocolate in the world, or whatever. Just something that says this isn't all there is. So I'm I'm at my time. So are there any other questions for now?
Could you do the same thing for grief?
You can do it for anything.
The reason I say is we have lost a few people who are dear to quite a few of us due to COVID-19, and I was just wondering if you just go through the same stages for grief.
Absolutely. You name it. Effectively what you're doing is naming it. So you're actually allowing yourself to be in touch with those emotions, to feel them, to let them out, whilst you're soothing them at the same time. But it's the acknowledgement that you know, you feel what you feel. Yeah, you can do it. So you can also do it for grief about your own situation, you know, really and truly anything. But I'm happy if anybody wants to email me, and Luke, feel free to give out my email. with a question, then I'm more than happy to answer. And I will do some kind of a handout for you. And I will also give you, there is a link to a cartoon which is good for adults and children, which runs through, it uses the face tapping points, so don't use it until after the thing's over. But you can just simply tap along with this cartoon version of the tearless trauma technique. So there's quite a lot of resources online anyway, so I'll send Luke a handout for those of you who want more information. But yeah, feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you all for your open-mindedness and your interest in it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Heather.
Cheers.
Very much.
Very much. It's great to have a technique where you can actually do something.
Yeah.